Lily inherited Blackwood Manor, a house filled with secrets. Lily discovered a haunting photograph of Eleanor Blackwood from 1888.
You must be Lily. I'm Alex, your neighbour from down the road. Play something for me. What was that? Do you know Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata? Some secrets are best left buried.
Lily found a hidden diary in the library. The diary belonged to Eleanor Blackwood, the woman in the photograph Lily had found earlier. As she read, Lily felt a chill run down her spine. Eleanor's words painted a vivid picture of life at Blackwood Manor over a century ago. Eleanor wrote of a young man, a commoner named Daniel, who had stolen her heart. Their love was passionate, all-consuming and utterly forbidden. Lily read on, her heart aching for Eleanor's plight. Daniel was everything Eleanor's family disapproved of. Yet their love for each other burned bright, fueled by stolen glances and whispered promises. Eleanor wrote of their dreams of running away together. But fate had other plans. As Lily turned the brittle pages, she felt a growing sense of dread. Eleanor's entries became shorter, more frantic. Their secret meetings had been discovered and Daniel was banished. Lily could feel Eleanor's pain, her anguish at being torn away from the only man she had ever loved. Lily paused in her reading, her mind reeling from the intensity of Eleanor's story. She thought of Alex, of the strange connection she felt to him. Could it be? Was Alex somehow connected to Daniel? Was their meeting, their undeniable attraction more than just a coincidence? As dawn pierced through the curtains, Lily closed the diary, her mind awhirl with questions. She had spent the night lost in Eleanor's world, her heart aching for the young lovers. But the diary raised more questions than it answered. Who was Daniel? What had become of him after he was banished from Blackwood Manor? And was his spirit, along with Eleanor's, still trapped within these walls? Lily decided she couldn't keep this to herself. She needed to talk to Alex, to share what she had learned. She found him in the gardens, his silhouette against the rising sun. He was tending to a bed of roses, their petals glistening with dew. As she approached, she noticed a strange familiarity in his movements.
Alex, she began, I need to show you something.
Section 4. The Seance. This house, it's trying to tell us something. Alex's voice was barely a whisper, breaking the spell that had fallen over them. He turned to Lily, his green eyes filled with a strange mixture of fear and determination.
We need to know what happened. We need to help them.
Lily nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never believed in ghosts, but the events of the past few days had shaken her to her core. She couldn't deny the feeling that something was deeply wrong.
What do we do? She asked, her voice trembling slightly.
Alex took her hand, his touch surprisingly warm and reassuring.
We hold a séance, he said, his voice firm despite the tremor that ran through him. We contact them, try to understand their pain, help them find closure.
Lily's breath caught in her throat. A séance? It seemed both terrifying and exhilarating. They gathered that night in the grand ballroom. Moonlight streamed through the tall windows, casting long, dancing shadows. The air was thick with anticipation and the faint scent of decaying roses. Alex lit candles, their flickering flames casting an eerie glow. an elderly woman rumored to possess a gift for communicating with the other side, and a skeptical young priest, there more out of curiosity than conviction. As the clock chimed midnight, a shiver ran down Lily's spine. The air grew heavy, the silence broken only by the crackling of the flames. They joined hands, forming a circle of living flesh amidst the spectral echoes of the past. Lily closed her eyes, her heart pounding as Alex began to speak, his voice a low, hypnotic murmur. He called out to Eleanor and Daniel, his words a plea for understanding. The séance had begun. The air grew thick, heavy with a palpable energy that sent shivers down Lily's spine. The candle flames flickered wildly, casting grotesque shadows that danced across the faces of the assembled group. A low hum resonated through the room, a sound both beautiful and terrifying, like the strumming of a celestial harp strung with spider silk. Lily felt a cold spot settle over her, a chilling presence that seemed to seep into her very bones. Alex's voice grew stronger, his words echoing through the silent house, a beacon of light reaching out into the darkness.
Eleanor, Daniel, he called, his voice filled with a desperate longing. We know you're here. Show yourselves to us. Tell us your story. Help us understand.
A sudden gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the candles and plunging them into absolute darkness. Screams pierced the air, a cacophony of fear and confusion. Lily clung to Alex's hand, her heart pounding against her ribs. She could feel his grip tighten on hers, his presence a small island of warmth in the sea of cold that enveloped them. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the wind died down. A single candle flickered back to life, casting a faint, wavering light upon the terrified faces of the group. And then they saw it, a shimmering, translucent form taking shape in the center of the circle. It was Eleanor, her spectral form as beautiful and tragic as the day she had died. Eleanor's ethereal form shimmered, her pale face etched with eternal sadness. Her eyes now burned with a cold spectral fire. Lily gasped, stifling a scream. Here was undeniable proof that death was not the end. "Daniel," Eleanor whispered, her voice a mournful sigh. Her spectral hand reached out, passing through Alex.
He took you from me, she hissed, raw with anger and pain. He condemned us to an eternity apart.
Confusion swept through the room. Who was Eleanor talking about? Why was she so filled with rage? Alex stepped forward, his gaze never leaving Eleanor.
Who took him from you, he whispered. Tell us, Eleanor, let us help you.
Eleanor's form wavered, her spectral hand balling into a fist.
My father, she spat, dripping with venom. He deemed our love a stain upon our family's honor. He banished Daniel, threatened to kill him if he returned.
Tears streamed down Eleanor's face, ethereal trails of light.
I never saw him again, she sobbed, her voice a heart-wrenching lament. He died alone, his heart filled with my name.
Lily watched in horror as Eleanor's spectral form dissolved into a blinding flash of light. The candle flames sputtered and died, plunging them into darkness. Panic surged through the group.
A coldness settled over the room, a malevolent chill. The air crackled with energy and a deep voice boomed.
You dare to disturb our rest? The voice roared. You who are but fleeting shadows?
Lily fumbled for Alex's hand. She could feel his body trembling beside hers.
Who are you? Alex called out.
I am Daniel, the voice boomed. This house is mine. The darkness coalesced into a humanoid shape. 2 points of crimson light pierced the gloom.
You will leave this place, Daniel's voice commanded, and you will never speak of what you have witnessed here. Terror threatened to overwhelm Lily. She wanted to scream, to run, to escape the suffocating darkness that pressed in on her from all sides. But something held her rooted to the spot, a strange mixture of fear and fascination that she couldn't quite explain.
As she stared into the malevolent eyes of the shadowy figure that called itself Daniel, a terrifying thought took root in her mind. What if Eleanor's story wasn't entirely true? What if Daniel hadn't been the innocent victim she had portrayed him to be?
"We're not afraid of you," Lily said, her voice surprisingly steady despite the tremor that ran through her. She could feel Alex stiffen beside her, his grip tightening on her hand.
"You know the truth, don't you?" Lily continued, her voice gaining strength with every word. "You weren't banished from Blackwood Manor. You were the one who did the banishing. You drove Eleanor mad with your jealousy, with your possessiveness."
The shadowy figure flickered, its form wavering as if buffeted by an unseen force.
"Silence!" Daniel roared, his voice shaking the very foundations of the house. "You know nothing of our love, of the pain I endured."
Lily stood her ground, her fear giving way to a steely resolve.
"You may have fooled Eleanor," she said, her voice ringing with conviction, "but you won't fool us. We know the truth."
Daniel's spectral form trembled, his rage palpable in the oppressive atmosphere.
"You are but intruders, meddling in affairs that are none of your concern."
Lily refused to back down. She could feel the presence of Eleanor urging her forward.
"Eleanor loved you," Lily pressed, her voice unwavering.
The room grew colder, the air thick with a malevolent energy. The shadowy figure of Daniel lunged toward Lily.
But Alex stepped forward, shielding Lily from the spectral assault. "Leave her be!" Alex shouted, his voice filled with righteous anger.
Daniel's spectral form recoiled as if struck by an invisible blow. He turned toward Alex, his crimson eyes blazing with fury.
"You dare defy me?" Daniel roared.
Alex stood tall, his fear giving way to a steely resolve.
"I may be your descendant, but I will not let you harm her."
A faint ethereal glow enveloped Alex, illuminating his face in the darkness. The room held its breath, the air thick with anticipation. Lily could feel a shift in the balance of power, a sense that the tide was turning. Daniel's spectral form wavered, his anger momentarily eclipsed by a flicker of doubt.
"What are you? What power do you possess that allows you to defy me?"
Alex met Daniel's gaze, his expression a mixture of sadness and determination.
"The power of love,"
he said simply, his voice echoing with a strength that belied his human frailty. He turned to Lily, his gaze softening.
"I should have told you sooner. I knew about this house, about Eleanor and Daniel, about the curse that has haunted this family for generations."
Lily stared at him, her mind struggling to process his words.
"What are you talking about?"
She whispered, her voice barely audible above the pounding of her own heart. Alex took a deep breath, his gaze filled with a profound sadness.
"Daniel was my great-great-grandfather. He made a pact with a dark entity to keep Eleanor here with him, even in death."
Lily gasped, her eyes widening in horror.
"But why? Why would he do such a thing?"
Alex shook his head, his expression a mixture of anger and pity.
"Daniel was obsessed with Eleanor. He couldn't bear the thought of her rejecting him, of her living a life without him, so he sacrificed their souls and the souls of generations to come to bind her to him for eternity."
A cold fury washed over Lily, a righteous anger that eclipsed even her fear.
He had no right. He condemned them to an eternity of suffering, all for his own selfish desires.
She turned toward the spectral form of Daniel, her eyes blazing with defiance.
"You will release them. You will break this curse, here and now."
Daniel's spectral form solidified, his crimson eyes burning with a cold fire.
"You cannot command me, little one. I am bound to this house, to this land, to her."
He gestured toward the spectral form of Eleanor, who stood frozen between them, her face etched with an eternal sadness.
"No, Daniel."
A voice echoed through the room, soft yet filled with an undeniable strength. Eleanor's spectral form shimmered, her ethereal hand reaching out toward Daniel, her touch as tangible as a winter's breeze.
"You were wrong to bind me here. Our love was not meant to be a prison, a torment without end."
Daniel recoiled as if burned, his spectral form flickering with denial.
"No, my love. I did it for us, to keep us together always."
Eleanor shook her head, her spectral tears shimmering like diamonds in the dim light.
"You mistook obsession for love. You trapped us both in a cage of your own making."
Lily watched, her heart aching for the two souls trapped in this spectral dance of despair. She knew, with a certainty that defied logic or reason, that only one thing could break the curse. She turned to Alex, her gaze locking with his.
"You have to do it," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You have to release them, set them free."
Alex nodded, his expression a mixture of sorrow and acceptance. He stepped forward, his hand reaching out toward the spectral form of his ancestor.
"Daniel," he said, his voice strong and clear, "I know you loved Eleanor. You cannot keep her prisoner any longer. It's time to let go."
Daniel rounded on Alex, his spectral form flickering with rage.
"You dare betray your own blood," he roared, his voice shaking the very foundations of the house. "You would side with these mortals against your own kin?"
Alex stood firm, his gaze unwavering.
"They are no longer my concern," he said, his voice filled with a quiet power. "My only concern is to right the wrongs of the past, to set these souls free."
He turned toward Eleanor, his expression softening.
"Eleanor," he said, his voice filled with a gentle warmth, "Daniel may have bound you to this place, but only you can break the chains that bind you."
Eleanor turned her spectral gaze upon Alex, her eyes widening with a flicker of hope.
"What do you mean?" she whispered, her voice a fragile thread in the oppressive silence.
Alex met her gaze, his own filled with a profound empathy.
"Forgive him," he said simply, his voice echoing with the wisdom of generations past. "Forgive him and let him go. Only then can you both find peace."
A hush fell over the room, heavy with the weight of centuries of sorrow and regret. Eleanor's spectral form shimmered, her ethereal hand hovering inches from Daniel's spectral chest. The air crackled with a palpable tension, as if the very fabric of reality was stretched thin, threatening to tear. Lily held her breath, her heart pounding against her ribs. She could feel the weight of their gazes upon her, the fate of these two tormented souls hanging in the balance. "Forgive him," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the pounding of her own heart. "Set him free, Eleanor, for your sake, for his, for the sake of all those who have suffered because of this curse." A single tear rolled down Eleanor's translucent cheek, shimmering like a diamond in the dim light. "Farewell, my love," she whispered, her voice filled with a heartbreaking tenderness. "May you find peace at last." Her spectral hand touched Daniel's chest and a blinding light erupted, engulfing the room in a white-hot inferno. Lily screamed and shielded her eyes, the heat of the spectral fire searing her skin even as she cowered behind Alex's protective embrace. The air crackled and popped, the sound of 1,000 whispers rising to a deafening crescendo. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the light faded. Lily slowly lowered her hand, her vision blurry with after-images of the spectral fire. The room was silent, the air thick with the lingering scent of ozone and a faint sweet aroma that reminded her of honeysuckle and rain. She blinked, her eyes slowly adjusting to the dim light that filtered through the dusty windows. The spectral forms of Daniel and Eleanor were gone. In their place, two shimmering orbs of light hovered in the air, pulsing gently as if breathing in unison. Lily watched in awe as the orbs of light drifted toward each other, their ethereal glow merging until they formed a single brilliant star. And then, as if on cue, the grand piano in the corner of the room sprang to life. The ivory keys depressed one by one as if played by an invisible hand. A haunting melody filled the air, the same melody Lily had played for Alex on their first night at Blackwood Manor. It was Eleanor's waltz, the song of her forbidden love, but this time it was different. The melancholy was gone, replaced by a bittersweet joy, a sense of peace and resolution that resonated through the very walls of the house. Lily felt a tear roll down her cheek, a tear of both sorrow and relief. The curse was broken. Daniel and Eleanor were finally free. The single star that had been Daniel and Eleanor drifted toward Lily and Alex, bathing them in its warm, ethereal glow. Lily felt a sense of profound peace wash over her, as if the weight of generations of sorrow had been lifted from her shoulders. As the star faded, a single white rose materialized in its place, its petals as pure and perfect as freshly fallen snow. Alex gently plucked the rose from the air, its stem impossibly smooth and cool beneath his fingers. He turned to Lily, his gaze filled with a mixture of sadness and love.
"It's over," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "The curse is broken."
Lily nodded, her heart filled with a bittersweet joy. She knew that Blackwood Manor would always hold a certain darkness, a lingering echo of the tragic events that had unfolded within its walls. But it would also hold the memory of a love that had endured beyond death, a love that had ultimately triumphed over darkness and despair. As they walked hand in hand out of the grand ballroom, the first rays of dawn painting the sky in hues of rose and gold, Lily knew that she would never forget the spectral encounters, the chilling whispers, the bone-deep terror that had shaken her to her core. She would carry the legacy of Blackwood Manor with her, a constant reminder of the power of love, the enduring strength of the human spirit, and the haunting beauty of a love that even death could not diminish.